What if the cure to cancer, where the absolute next major breakthrough in high-speed internet is currently floating 250 miles right above your head? Seriously, think about that. Because we're about to look at a place where the physics we take for granted down here on Earth completely change. Up in the zero-gravity environment of low Earth orbit, standard fluid dynamics totally transform. Convection currents and sedimentation, they literally disappear. This bizarre environment enables the creation of flawless Z-band optical fibers that can transmit global data with virtually zero signal loss. It allows pharmaceutical giants to crystallize life-saving cancer immunotherapies like Keytruda in a way that cuts clinical treatment times from hours down to just minutes. And it makes it entirely possible to 3D print human knee cartilage and actual organs without them collapsing under their own weight. Private, uncrewed space factories are already returning these pristine materials to Earth right now, unlocking a massive new industrial frontier where space-manufactured goods command values up to $100,000 for a single kilogram. Let that sink in. $100,000 per kilogram.
Look at the sheer difference in these structures. When you remove the continuous downward pull of gravity, you eliminate all that chaotic thermal convection and buoyancy that absolutely ruin delicate manufacturing processes down here. For instance, when we try to draw heavy metal fluoride glass, known as ZBLN, on Earth, gravity causes these microscopic crystallization defects. It's unavoidable, but in the absolute stillness of microgravity, we get perfectly transparent fibers. We see the exact same thing with biological tissue. On Earth, if you try to 3D print thick layers of soft tissue, it just turns to mush. It collapses under its own weight before the cells can even fuse and stabilize. But up in orbit, it's like this natural, scaffold-free environment. Companies are already successfully printing living human avascular tissues up there because the absence of gravity acts as an invisible scaffolding holding everything together perfectly.
And this brilliant scientific reality, it's creating an entirely new economic paradigm. We aren't just talking about doing basic science experiments in space anymore. We are talking about highly profitable, automated orbital manufacturing. Now, because of the incredible unit economics of returning goods through the atmosphere, what the aerospace industry calls downmass, only the most extraordinarily valuable commodities make the cut right now. We're talking goods that command tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars per kilogram. But as massive, fully reusable rockets come online, that logistics cost is going to absolutely plummet, which will open the floodgates for this pristine orbital supply chain to reach Earth. But here's the catch. To build this trillion-dollar orbital supply chain, we are racing against a terrifying ticking clock.
So why does all of this matter to you? Well, according to me, this is hands down the most exciting industrial revolution of our lifetime. You are going to learn exactly how billionaires, aerospace engineers, and pharmaceutical giants are secretly building the future of telecommunications, medicine, and human longevity right now. We're going to cover how this trillion-dollar orbit works, the ticking time bomb of our current space infrastructure, how we're engineering ways to survive the lethal orbital void, the wild new space factories being built, and finally, a fiery goodbye to an absolute legend. Stick around, because understanding this shows you exactly how everyday life on Earth is about to completely transform. The stakes literally could not be higher.
To really grasp the magnitude of this trillion-dollar orbit and in-space microgravity manufacturing, we have to understand the invisible chains holding back modern industry. Down here on Earth, gravity severely limits industrial physics. It's this relentless, crushing force dragging down everything we try to build, mix, or crystallize. It induces buoyancy-driven fluid mixing that causes localized temperature gradients and structural imperfections in everything. We're talking from advanced semiconductors like gallium nitride all the way to delicate macromolecular proteins. Gravity is, essentially, the ultimate enemy of microscopic perfection.
These two radically different environments brilliantly illustrate the core of the problem. Think of it like this. Drawing fiber optics or growing complex crystals on Earth is a lot like constantly stirring sugar into a hot cup of coffee. That aggressive, swirling motion is called Marangoni convection. Because of gravity, hotter fluids rise and cooler fluids sink. It practically guarantees that your final product will have microscopic flaws and jagged crystalline defects. But in the absolute zero-gravity void of space, that fluid sits perfectly, completely still. It achieves pure diffusion-dominated transport. The result is an absolutely homogeneous, defect-free crystalline lattice. Imagine you're trying to build a perfectly fragile house of cards, but someone is constantly vibrating the table. That is exactly what gravity does to microscopic structures. Moving the factory to space is the equivalent of building that house of cards on a perfectly solid, completely motionless floor. The level of perfection you can achieve is just unparalleled.
But here is where the story gets incredibly tense. To manufacture these flawless goods, we obviously need a place to actually do it. For over 2 decades, our only major orbital factory has been the International Space Station. But that incredible piece of 20th century aerospace engineering is fundamentally falling apart. We are dealing with a ticking time bomb floating right above us.
The crucial point here is understanding the visceral, inescapable reality of thermodynamic fatigue. The ISS is a 400-ton metal behemoth orbiting the Earth at 17,500 miles per hour. That insane speed means it experiences 16 freezing sunrises and 16 blistering sunsets every single 24 hours. Imagine your own house undergoing 16 freezing winters and 16 blistering summers every single day. The metal of the station is groaning and shifting, relentlessly expanding and contracting under extreme thermal stress, day in and day out for 25 years. Add to that the persistent microvibrations from docking spacecraft and massive internal gyroscopes. The result? The primary truss assemblies and pressurized hulls are physically degrading. There are accumulating microfractures and tiny atmospheric leaks, particularly inside the Russian Zvezda service module, that engineers simply cannot permanently fix. Because of this uncompromising material reality, the decommissioning of the ISS by 2031 isn't just some distant idea, it's an inflexible, hard mandate. The clock is ticking loudly.
This forced retirement creates a massive problem. To prevent an orbital monopoly where foreign stations are the only ones left in the sky, private companies are desperately stepping up to build commercial replacements. But surviving the orbital void and engineering these new space factories comes with a massive, literally lethal problem. And it involves tiny flecks of paint and space debris traveling at 22,000 miles per hour.
Now, don't let the ballistic limit equation on your screen scare you. According to me, the best way to understand this math is to think of it as a highly mathematical bouncer at a nightclub. Its entire job is to calculate exactly how thick a specialized armor, called a stuffed Whipple shield, needs to be to stop a hypervelocity space rock before it punches a deadly hole right through your orbital bedroom. At 10 kilometers a second, a piece of debris the size of a tiny green pea hits with the kinetic energy of a solid iron anvil dropped from the top of a skyscraper. Just think about that impact for a second. When that projectile strikes the outer aluminum bumper of the shield, it instantly vaporizes into a superheated plasma cloud. Then, an interstitial layer of ceramic fabric absorbs the immense thermal shock, and a final layer of high-tensile Kevlar catches the kinetic wave, bowing inward but stopping the debris cold. It is an unimaginably violent microsecond event, and these new commercial stations have to be engineered to survive thousands of them.
But thick armor is only half the battle, right? You also have to keep the people inside alive without constantly relying on Earth. The ISS relies heavily on incredibly expensive cargo ships to constantly deliver fresh water and breathable oxygen. Commercial platforms absolutely cannot afford that kind of overhead if they want to turn a profit. So they use a generational leap in high-tech recycling. Instead of relying on Earth shipments, they use advanced systems to literally turn human breath, and yes, human wastewater, back into 98% pure reclaimed drinking water and oxygen. They use a complex sequence of vacuum distillation and a cutting-edge process called methane pyrolysis to squeeze every possible drop of utility out of the cabin environment. They completely separate out all contaminants without ever needing the gravity-dependent settling tanks we use for water treatment down here on Earth. Pretty wild, right? So, with the life support systems optimized and the armor calculations solved, who is actually building these incredible machines? Let's meet the new space factories. A wild array of futuristic, commercially funded commercial destinations are stepping onto the stage, completely ready to claim the sky and replace the dying ISS.
Think of these contenders like highly aggressive tech startups, but with vastly different engineering philosophies and massive physical scales. First up, you have Haven 1 by a company called Vast. They're playing it smart and lean, designing a station specifically to fit perfectly inside a single SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. It's actually built to demonstrate artificial gravity by spinning in orbit. Then you have Starlab. They are taking advantage of the sheer unprecedented size of the upcoming SpaceX Starship to launch a massive 8-meter diameter monolithic stainless steel hole in one single flight. That means absolutely no complex orbital assembly is required. And then there's Orbital Reef, backed by Blue Origin. Their approach is incredibly cool. Their station packs tightly into a rocket fairing, and then, once in the vacuum of space, it inflates. It literally blows up like a giant high-tech balloon made of woven Vectran fibers, expanding into a bustling orbital business park, capable of housing dozens of people and heavy manufacturing labs.
And the way we actually build and connect these modules together, that is undergoing a total revolution too. The old way, the one used on the ISS, was entirely passive. A cargo ship would literally have to hover perfectly still while an astronaut manually operated a giant robotic arm to physically catch it and bolt it to a massive 50-inch square hatch. It was incredibly slow, completely nerve-wracking, and labor-intensive. The new commercial stations use a completely different standard, and it is genuinely amazing that we can do this. These factories self-dock. Approaching 400-ton vehicles use autonomous LiDAR, which is essentially laser radar, to guide themselves directly into the docking ports with millimeter precision, without any robotic assistance or crew intervention whatsoever. It completely changes the physical volume of manufacturing machinery we can move around, forcing companies to pre-install their heavy robotic labs before they ever even leave the launch pad.
Just look at this timeline. We are currently in a ticking clock scenario, and the chronological roadmap here is truly breathtaking. Right now, as we speak, we are deep into the terrestrial validation of these inflatable habitats and closed-loop life support systems. By 2027, the sky changes forever as Haven 1 launches, establishing the very first fully independent commercial space station. Then, by 2029, those massive multi-tenant orbital economies like Orbital Reef and Starlab come online, scaling up automated pharmaceutical crystallization and optical fiber drawing to true industrial levels. And this timeline builds immense, unrelenting tension, because it all leads to the year 2031, when the clock finally runs out on the legendary International Space Station.
And that leads to our final hurdle, a fiery goodbye. When that 2031 deadline hits, we can't exactly just leave a 400-ton structure dead in orbit. It would eventually crash back to Earth completely uncontrolled, posing an utterly unacceptable risk to populated cities around the globe. So this transition culminates in an event of unprecedented engineering scale and, honestly, cinematic climax, a heavily controlled, fiery destruction using the SpaceX US deorbit vehicle.
To pull this monumental task off, NASA has tasked SpaceX with building this massive deorbit vehicle. Normal cargo ships simply lack the structural rigidity and the sheer thrust required to overpower the aerodynamic forces that will tear at the station during its final atmospheric plunge. So SpaceX is building a heavily modified Dragon spacecraft mated to a massively expanded, bespoke trunk. This vehicle will weigh an astonishing 30,000 kilograms. To put that 30,000 kilograms into perspective, that is like launching a fleet of heavy-duty commercial trucks into orbit for one single, completely destructive, one-way mission. It will carry 16,000 kilograms of liquid propellant, which is approximately 6 times the fuel capacity of a standard Dragon capsule, just to fight the immense atmospheric drag.
The vehicle will dock with the abandoned station, serving as its master control system while its orbit naturally decays over a year and a half. And then, at the critical altitude of 220 kilometers, it happens. Paint a picture of this in your mind. 46 Draco thrusters firing simultaneously, roaring to life in the dead vacuum of space. The sheer force of those engines will completely overpower the massive, sprawling station, dropping its perigee deep into the dense Earth atmosphere. It will drive the station into a precise, fiery re-entry corridor, causing a catastrophic plasma breakup aimed directly at Point Nemo. If you don't know, Point Nemo is the spacecraft cemetery located in the most desolate, uninhabited stretch of the South Pacific Ocean. As that colossal legacy vaporizes over the Pacific, the commercial platforms orbiting high above will fully inherit the sky. It marks the permanent, profound transition from a government science experiment to a ruthless, highly optimized industrial economy, which leaves us with a critical thought to ponder. As the ISS burns and these incredibly lucrative private space factories light up the night sky, who will truly own the next stage of human evolution? Because the companies that control the microgravity supply chain will literally control the future of medicine, technology, and materials right here on Earth. If you want to hear more exciting stories like this and stay ahead of the curve, hit subscribe and hype this video.